According to my business registration documents, I have officially run Pastry Pleasures for 10 years on October 31st, 2022. And hopefully you're watching this on October 31st, 2022. That way it marks an actual 10-year journey of me running a business. So I will definitely insert clips from those years of photos, if I have any photos, or as far as Facebook photos will go. I can remember some of my work from 2012. I don't think I remember like all of it from each specific year, but I do remember like some of these cakes when I did them, etc. And yeah, so I'm going to be inserting them as clips either somewhere here and rating each year like how it was. So let's start with 2012. 2012 is the year I went to baking school. I went to baking school around August, September, or both August and September. And I guess yeah, August, September, and then registered my business in October. My biggest reason for why I registered my business name was I remember I had gone to make cards, and then my card guy Benja was like, have you registered your name? I'm like, no. Why? I didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. And he was like, your business name is actually a pretty good name, and you see, every time you hand out your business card, not everyone who's taking your business card wants to actually purchase from you. There's people who take business cards, learn the name of the business, and go register it. So when you want the business name, they sell it to you at a much more higher price than what you would have paid when you're registering your business name. So that was the first advice he gave me. And then I went and registered, and I guess my documents were ready on October 31st, because that's what my thingy says, my registration form says. So yeah, 2012. So I finished baking school in either September or October. And then after that, that's when Blankets and Wine was doing, I think they weren't even at number 20. It was still early stages. And I don't even know how the idea came. Maybe a friend suggested it, or I had attended yes, I had attended while in baking school a Blankets and Wine. So when I attended Blankets and Wine that month, I saw like say a gap in the market, in the sense of while we were there, the Blankets and Wine had kids, had like families, young people, etc. And most of it was catering to like, the festival was, or the concert was catering to people who are into like alcohol, nyama, etc. And then in my head I was like, why don't I go to Blankets and sell cakes? Because there's so many kids here. They might want a cupcake or a slice of cake. Also there's adults who would rather have cake. So went home, registered to be a vendor, and yeah, I got the opportunity, and I did that I think thrice. So that was 2012. But I remember my first cake. That one I'm definitely going to insert it. It wasn't an order like my first cake from baking school. It was a cake from my cousin Kyla, and when I tell you, I was so proud of that cake. And now whenever I look at it, I'm like but anyways, that's 2012. Mainly I did Blankets and Wine, and that like the cake that's top of my head is that cake for Kyla. So 2012, business wise, I would say 10 out of 10 actually, considering it was my first like 3 months of baking. I would give it a 10 out of 10 because I started with like deep end doing that Akina Blankets and Wine, and it was constantly successful. So 10 out of 10, like I think the success I got from that Blankets and Wine experience like made me realize, this can actually be a whole business. And now I don't think I'd even do an event, like go for an event and sell cupcakes. I do not think I can, but we'll see when that bridge, if it ever comes or we get there. And then now we go to 2013. 2013 is when I was in my last year of campus, the first sem. So I don't think I was baking at that point, but I remember selling cupcakes. And then finished my exams in maybe April. At that point, 2013 or 2012, after finishing baking school, I used to do cakes for my sister's office. The birthday thing where they do like quarterly birthdays or something, monthly or quarterly, and then I take those. So I used to do a lot of like practice at home, so sample cakes, and then my sister goes to the office and they try them out. So 2013, I remember most of 2013 I was doing like corporate, those monthly birthday or quarterly birthdays. So after uni, that's what I was doing a lot of, like those corporate orders. And then, and then, because I wasn't as busy then, and that's also the year I did my first wedding cake, and that's when I was technically an apprentice or an intern for Jess's mom. She had a wedding business, and I used to help her out, and that's how I learned how to do my first wedding, and like how to be stern with your policies when you're doing wedding cakes and such things. That's 2013. And then 2013, how would I rate it? 10 out of 10 as well. Reason being, I think that's when I grew like very, very much. I remember like was that 2013? No, it's not 2013, but I'd still give 2013 10 out of 10, because I was now like looking for information about the wedding cake, because I remember telling Hilda, the bride, I've not done a wedding, I've barely even done like enough cakes for me to take up a wedding cake. And she's like, it's April, you have until December, like find a baker who you can work for. And that's how I worked for Jess's mom. Like she told me, find someone who can guide you, and then December, because I want you to do my wedding cake. It's non-negotiable. So so I'd give it a 10 out of 10, because I was constantly like seeking information of what to do, etc. And 10 out of 10. I don't remember a bad experience from 2013. Please let me know in the comments, should I possibly like recreate my old designs for you guys to see how I did. Okay, obviously I don't have videos of how I did it the first time, but I have photos, and how I would do it now with my experience as a baker for 10 years, how I'd do the same cake 10 years later. 2014 I was in photography school. Business wise I'd give it 8 out of 10. 8 because I have 0 bad memories from baking in 2014, but there is, and I keep saying, I think I started teaching in 2015, but 2014, the main thing I remember from 2014 is watching a lot of content regarding baking. Like, I was that girl waking up very early in the morning to watch Cake Boss, what was it, TLC, Food Network, all those shows, Akina Badi Velastro, Yolanda Gump, all those. There was so much on TV, I remember. Like, I'd watch all those shows about wedding cakes, all those things I remember watching a lot of. And I also think from watching a lot of Food Network, those competitive shows, that's how I learned like designs, because that's, social media wasn't what it is now. Many people sharing information, you had to actually seek information, and watching TV, those shows is how I found the information. So 2014, I would say I spent a lot of 2014 on research technically, because I needed to find information on how to do all these things. And the reason I teach, number one, mainly is I tell my students, because I know there's someone who once told me I give too much information to my students. But here's my thing, I keep saying I would rather, when this student leaves, because you've paid for classes, because you either want to have fun baking or you want to start your business, this is my number one rule. I don't want you to feel like you've wasted your money. So I don't want someone to give me money to to train them in this skill that they can see I have, and then they spend like 2 years, like I did, getting comfortable enough to be able to tell someone, here is a cake that they feel proud of. I even usually tell my students, like, take progress photos so that at the end of your classes, whether you do the first class or the full thing, I want you to see your first cake and your last cake, and actually yourself, when looking at it, you can see the improvement, and then you'll decide, is this for me, is it not for me? What concepts do I prefer having, fondant work or buttercream? Am I going to venture into sugar flowers or toppers? Like, you look at it yourself and decide, instead of us, who I feel like we were thrown into such a deep end, to the point where when you start like your business, you have such limited skill set, and that's not something I want my students to have. So that's why 2014 for me would be an 8 or a 7 out of 10, because I feel like it was wasted on researching things I should have been taught at school. But yeah, 2014 is also the year where I started like taking photos better, when it's like it clicked. The better the photos, the more likely I am to sell to people. Yeah, I remember 2014 also doing like a lot of dummy cakes, like to practice. Yes, I've remembered, so I'll insert them there. And that's actually how I started doing wedding cakes, TBH. Because of doing dummy cakes. So when someone would ask me, have you done a wedding before? I'd be like, no, but here's an example of a cake I can do that can also be a wedding cake. Looking back now, they were ugly. Like, they're not things I would consider good looking. They aren't ugly, but at the same time, where I am now, those were ugly. So I will insert, I've remembered 2014 cakes, I will definitely insert them. 2014 cakes. And then we get into 2015. 2015, 9 out of 10. Reason being, 2015, as I've mentioned in my shop series, 2015 is the year I opened my shop. So it's the year where I had a determination. And also, some people when they ask me how long I've been baking, I usually say from 2015 instead of from 2012, because 2012, 2013, 2014, I feel like I still wasn't there yet. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was still like learning. So technically, those first 3 years, sometimes I don't even count them as I was a baker. So technically, I've been a baker from 2012, run my business from 2012, but to some people I usually mention I've been baking since 2015. I think sometimes 2014, but I know 2015 is the year where now I felt confident, because I've watched enough YouTube, I've watched enough Food Network, and that's, I think 2015, I remember watching Cake Boss, and in this one video, he was making a crocodile, and I remember just going like, yeah, I think I've figured out this is not my thing. It's not my thing. I don't want to be part of it. I don't want to learn these things. They're not things I am genuinely going to ever do. At no point am I going to shape a cake into a crocodile. So no. And I think, and I don't know, Yolanda Gump had made a shoe, and that's the year I was like, yeah, I think I'm focusing on the wrong things. These aren't things I'm ever going to do. I can't sculpt to save my life, so I just stopped watching that stuff. But yeah, that's where 2015 now is when I opened my shop. But before that, it's when I was working so hard, constantly busy, opened my shop. But it gets an 8 out of 10 because it's also the year where I spent so much money on medical bills because I wasn't smart enough to realize that fatigue does kill. Yeah, so it loses points because of that. 2015, I did the weddings, and honestly, 2015 is definitely an 8 out of 10, only missing 2 points because of how much I went to hospital, but the rest is successful. So I should probably give it a 9. Okay, we'll give 2015 8.5. 2016 8.5 as well. Reason being, the 1.5, not illness, but the stress of running the shop to the point where I had to close down. That 1.5 goes away from that. I hated that part of my life, I think. But in the same breath, 2016 was also a very good year, like business-wise. Because I remember right after closing shop, I remember the first day I was home. I did several cakes. I remember like my first week home, I didn't even sleep. And then I also had weddings as well. I did my sister's wedding, I did our family friend's wedding. Like I remember just being constantly busy, and busy in a good way. So 8 out of 10. Like definitely we'll insert photos from that year. And also in 2016 is where you can kind of see my style changing, like compared to 2015, 2014, like my style is changing. And I figure it's because I had now figured out what I want my business to be about. Like after closing the shop, like I've realized having a physical store is not for me. I know what I want Pastry Pleasures to be, and so like you can see it in my photography, in my cakes, like my designs, like the improvement was just like a switch. And I figure it's because I was happier at that point. And then so 8.5 out of 10. And then came 2017. 2017, 10 out of 10. 2017, if I look back, according to my friends, they never saw me, which is true. But business-wise, 2017, 10 out of 10. That's the year I remember being busy. Like, I don't think there's a single order that didn't get taken. And I was constantly working, constantly improving. Like, and then I had like a style. I remember 90% of my cakes were drips. I don't know if drip cakes were in or something, but I remember my style was just drip cakes. What's it called? And I think that's when, yeah, I remember I used to get whipping cream in like boxes, like 12 packets of whipping cream, and now I can't even stand like decorating with whipping cream. I barely did fondant, I barely did buttercream at that point. But 2017, 10 out of 10, 100%. Because like that's when I started teaching, figured out what kind of a teacher I want. Not started teaching, like started group classes, the workshops, figured out what kind of a teacher I want to be, what my impact in baking I want it to be. Like, I remember at that point I was telling myself, if I was to shut down Pastry Pleasures years from now, what would I want to be remembered for? I don't even think I still have like a proper answer for that. But if you have an answer for me, if I was to like disappear from the face of the earth, what would you remember Pastry Pleasures for? Like, not disappear, that sounds so horrible. But if I was to shut down now completely, what's the one thing you'd remember Pastry Pleasures for? But that's the kind of mentality I had then, and it propelled me business-wise. Like, I wanted when I teach, if someone had, this person learned from me, they would come to me as well. If someone else wants a cake like to order, they can be recommended to me, and that's when I grew my clientele nicely. So 10 out of 10. I don't, despite me being so busy, I don't even remember being sick once. Yeah, I don't. So 2017, 10 out of 10. I just like know how I'm struggling to remember from previous years, like even 2 cakes. 2017 is like rooted in my head. I remember all the baby shower cakes I did. I remember birthday cakes. I remember wedding cakes. But yeah, I remember doing so many weddings in 2017. So and that's when Emma, my cousin, was helping me out a lot. So 2017, a definite 10 out of 10. Yeah, 2018. Still extremely busy in a very good way. I think 2018 is when like the burnout started, because I remember doing wedding cakes, but I actually have no recollection of most of my orders from 2018, but I do remember teaching a lot. 2018 is the year I started YouTube, like now doing YouTube consistently. So 2018 was a very good year because some people were finding my content on YouTube and then wanting like to order, which I love that for me. Like so I remember doing loads of content. That's when I was taking like chef's kiss photos, good photos. Like my style had definitely changed for the better. I was now, yes, 2018 I was working more comfortably with buttercream, and like that's when I started using chocolate buttercream, like trying to get more people to switch to the other side of cream. Still doing workshops, baking. Yeah, so 2018, just because I don't remember it, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because it had completely gone out of my head. But I feel like that's when my burnout had actually started. Yeah, I'll give it an 8 out of 10 because I barely remember anything positive or negative from it. Then we come to 2019. 2019 is the year I feel like now the exhaustion had figured like a limit, because I remember I wasn't on YouTube the whole of 2019. I was, but I'd avoid filming. I didn't even want to film. I remember even posting like end of around October, posting YouTube videos which I had filmed like in 2018. But yeah, 2019 I technically like was still working but barely working. I avoided too much work. I was just living life. I remember that's the year my friend Helen had been like, we no longer even see you, like we don't even know what's going on with your life, like show up for your friends, like you never come for birthdays, you don't do anything. Like, so I reduced my workload to have work-life balance. That's the main thing I remembered from 2019. So 2019 I'd give it an 8 out of 10 because I remember being happy like as a human, but I don't remember work, so I don't remember much. I don't think I baked as much in 2019. The one thing I remember is I taught, like instead of workshops I was doing more of one-on-one classes, but I don't remember being constantly taking orders. Yeah, because I was technically exhausted, like kabisa, so I was avoiding orders, teaching more. So that's my majority of 2019. So I would give it an 8 out of 10, mainly because I don't remember it, and also because I had fun. Like teaching is a good thing for me. I like teaching, so definitely good points for that. And then we come to 2020, COVID year. So maybe to a lot of people, probably 2020 was a horrible year, but let me tell you, 2020 for me was one of my best years business-wise. I know COVID affected so many businesses, and I remember even saying in 2020, thank God I no longer have my physical bakery, because if I still had a physical shop, I would definitely be in the group of people who were affected by COVID. But because I was working from home, like it was much better. I remember guys used to buy cakes for, like, we have nothing better to do, we want tea cakes, we want like a cake for a small party. I was constantly busy because people didn't know what would happen next. Like they were trying to do, even if it's just like a small party, you know, remember how it was just not a max of 15 people, because you just don't know what will happen tomorrow, if the curfew will be changed, etc. So I remember guys were coming for classes because they don't know if their jobs will be affected after COVID. Like guys were no longer going to the offices, so guys were learning because you just don't know what the future holds tomorrow. So for me personally, 2020 was a very good year, 10 out of 10, minus the COVID part. But anyway, I'm an introvert, so 2020 was a good year for me as a human. And I hope I'm not sounding insensitive, but business-wise, 2020 was good for me. And I'm empathetic and sympathetic to those who struggled in 2020. But for me, it was the opposite. I feel like because of where my business was at that point, guys came to me, and it's also a good thing for me. So 10 out of 10 for my business in 2020. I was happy mentally, physically. I was not sick at any point. My family was fine. Like business-wise, human wise, 2020 10 out of 10. 2021 is the year I would say my business now like shot up even more, because 2020, because of COVID, before like classes, I resumed teaching and all that. I had started like focusing on my YouTube channel, because what else did I have to do? And when my YouTube grew, my Instagram grew, and then my business, like 2021 was peak business for me, like beginning of 2021. I was constantly busy, like my page was growing, my YouTube was growing, like everything was growing well. And yeah, so if I break it into the first 11 months of 2021, sorry, 11 out of 10. They were perfect. I don't even remember bad instances from then, or I've just disappeared from my memory. And then December 2021 is when the inflation had started to like proper affect us. So that 1 month of 2021, and then I was unwell for a while. Oh, okay, 2021, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. No longer giving it a 10 out of 10. Because that's when my hand was in uncontrollable like pain constantly. Like I had to wear an arm brace constantly. Like, and it's very uncomfortable when you're working and then your hand is so painful. I remember I couldn't even like do this most times. Yeah, I remember being sick. So 2021 was a good year, but I'll give it a 9 out of 10. It's lost points because of how much pain I was in hand-wise. And then DEC 2021, the inflation had become so high to the point where like we couldn't, you were constantly you quoted earlier, and then now by the time the client is picking the cake, it's not worth the price you quoted. You're barely breaking even at that point. So yeah, the end of 2021, and then I hurt my back, so that's 2 out of 10 at best, because as much as I did very pretty like cakes, the pain wasn't worth it. 2022, my 10th year of baking, I'll give it a 3 out of 10, honestly. 2022 has taken a toll on me as a person, as a business owner, as a human. Like, I started the year unwell with my back problems, so constantly at physio. And then most of my pros from 2022 have been teaching and doing orders. But the inflation, the burnout, the back pain, like there has been more downs for me, like from last year December to now. And I feel like October is the only month I can give 10 out of 10, and probably because I haven't been busy. Like I've been making myself earlier in the year, so now I'm feeling happier, yes, but beginning January to like August, September, until like a point where I genuinely shared how burnout is affecting me, like 0%. So 2022, 3 out of 10. I feel like there's been more downs than ups. At least I remember starting the year on a good note, despite being with extreme back pain and going for physio constantly. I remember teaching. It's been a horrible year, but good thing is it's looking up. So I'm hoping by end of year I'll be, because now at this point my back is better. My neck is still not as good as it was in the other years, but I'm feeling better. I'm on break technically, so I'm hoping I'll get much better from now. 2022 has had definite ups, but I feel like my downs, and mainly downs have been because of inflation, have been more than the ups, and that's why I've been feeling this getaway. But yeah, that's all. That's my rating for this 10 years of baking. I can't even believe I've been a baker for 10 years. I remember my friend Helen saying it once. Like, she watched me finish decorating a cake and she's like, you know, I've known you since high school And honestly, every time like I see it's you who's finished these cakes, I'm so impressed, because honestly, if you it's not something I ever wanted to do. I don't even think when I was a teenager at any point I seemed like I would do this. But anyways, here we are 10 years later. Will I be still doing this 10 years to come? I don't know. But since I'm still recovering from my burnout, the answer is a very big maybe. But yeah, because I feel like I'm happier now doing videos. So maybe the next time I do an update rating my ears from where we'll have left off, I'll be maybe a full-time content creator, or I'll have definitely gone back to baking. But we don't know. We'll see when we get there and cross that bridge. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed my 10 years as a baker, and let me know if you would definitely want to see me like recreating my old designs again. So thank you so much. Bye.